Barrett was somebody that I could kind of pattern my life after, because she was able to get up and talk about people, and that would seem like a very wonderful thing, because I don't like reading from a script. Dean Martin told me many, many years ago, never rehearse, because if you rehearse, you'll leave the best of what you do on the dressing room floor. You never know what I'm going to do. I just do it. And because it comes, well, thank you. Fun was Friday night at Ruby Dunes. She came over and said, Mr. Sinatra wants to see you at the bar. And I froze. And I said, Mom. And she said, go, go. And I said, but, she said, just go. So I said to the waitress who we knew, I said, I'll be there in just a minute. And I got up and very gingerly walked across, and I said, Mr. Sinatra, and he said, it's time for you to leave here. I said, what? He said, you're ready to go to the big time. I put up, I had a little bit of savings, I put up a billboard. I couldn't afford to put a billboard up on the main part of the Sunset Boulevard, but I took a side street where you couldn't miss it, especially if you hit the traffic light on Doheny. And I put it up and it said, move over Rona, here comes Toni. Now that, I figured, what the heck, I'm going to get the attention, and she'll either kill me or we'll deal with it. And I guess probably is where my career in interviews really started. I was doing the afternoon and the evening news, doing Hollywood news. And I made all these friends. I was one of the few people, along with Ruta Lee, that when we did a show, the television cameras would let us be out there. Not just the arm that you always see like that. We were actually out there and we were photographed. And I was the only press ever invited to Glenn Ford's wedding. And I was the only press ever invited to this thing and that thing. Before I get to Rock Hudson, at KHJ, I did a zillion interviews. From Nancy Reagan, you name it. Every movie star in Hollywood would come through at one point or another. They had something to promote. But the one that was probably the most terrifying one to me, because all the people on the floor, all the producers, the director, the soundman, the cameraman, all said, oh my gosh, this is the worst person to interview. She is deadly. Eartha Kitt. I said, I have one question I'd like to ask you. Do you think white men have taken advantage of you? And she just stopped and she looked at me. She said, yes, they have. And from there on, from that moment on, we went through, they passed every commercial where we should have ended the show with her. Her family were all cotton pickers. During the time that she was a little girl, she used to hide. She would hide there and cry and say, I'll never be like them. I'm going to be a star. I'm going to be somebody. I'll never be a cotton picker. By the end of the interview, we were both crying. We were both in tears. I think that was the most monumental interview of my entire lifetime, and I'll never, ever forget it. The Trumpettes became my life, and I started it because I got angry that we had just joined Mar-a-Lago about 4 or 5 years before, and I just decided that I could not let people destroy this wonderful club and this wonderful man who I knew was not bigoted, who I knew did not mean anything except good for this country. There is no greater love, I believe, in his life than this country. America, the United States, is in good hands as long as he's there. I ask you all, just keep loving him any which way you want. Love him through the economy. Love him through the fact that this country is doing so much better. And just think of, God forbid, any of those other people that almost did us under We'll never, this is the most important election of our lifetime. Nothing is more important than this. So make sure we back him up in the Congress, make sure we back him up in the House. Let's have a red wave everywhere. And this man has been given to us by God. He really has. This was not an accident. This was not an accident. This was meant to be. He is really going to save this country. And he is not just the president today, you know. He is the leader of the world. So with that, I will remind you that if you haven't read my book, Carol says there are some out there for sale. And if you have read it or you can borrow it, don't spend the money. So anyhow, thank you all for inviting me. I appreciate it immensely. Thank you.